The world had been at war for years. In Europe, the great armies of the Allies were closing in on Germany, but across the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, another conflict raged. It had begun on a quiet Sunday morning in December 1941, Pearl Harbor. This single act thrust the United States into a global war. The early years in the Pacific were devastating Japanese victories. They swept across Southeast Asia. They took islands across the Pacific. The Japanese military, driven by Bushido, fought with shocking tenacity. For them, surrender was the ultimate disgrace. That belief produced battles of unimaginable ferocity. American soldiers and Marines, thousands of miles from home, faced an enemy who fought to the last man, who would launch desperate suicidal charges. The war ground on, bloody fights on jungle-choked islands with names forever etched into American memory: Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Saipan. By early 1945, the tide had turned. U.S. industry churned out ships, planes, and weapons. The U.S. Navy had crippled the Japanese fleet. American submarines strangled the island nation, cutting off oil and raw materials. Yet Japan would not surrender. As Allies neared the home islands, resistance became more fanatical. The government prepared the nation for Quezon, a final decisive battle. The human cost was staggering. A generation was being consumed. An American Marine wrote home, "You can't imagine what it's like. We pay for it in blood." Back home, families huddled around radios, proud and fearful. The Pacific War had become a brutal stalemate, measured not in miles, but in yards, and paid for with human lives. The American strategy was called island hopping. Instead of attacking every fortified Japanese island, the Allies would bypass the strongest ones, isolating them and leaving them to wither on the vine. While the bloody battles raged across the Pacific, a secret war was being waged in the laboratories and hidden facilities of the United States. It was a race against time, a scientific endeavor of unprecedented scale and secrecy known as the Manhattan Project. The project had begun out of fear that Nazi Germany was developing its own atomic weapon. Led by the brilliant physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer, thousands of scientists, engineers, and technicians worked tirelessly in places like Los Alamos, New Mexico, and Oak Ridge, Tennessee, to unlock the power of the atom and create a bomb of unimaginable destructive force. The project was shrouded in absolute secrecy. Many workers did not know what they were building, only that it was vital. On July 16, 1945, in the desolate desert of New Mexico, their work culminated in the Trinity test. As the countdown reached zero, a flash of light, brighter than 1,000 suns, illuminated the desert, followed by a deafening roar and a terrifying mushroom cloud that climbed miles into the sky. Oppenheimer recalled, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." With the successful test, the new American president, Harry S. Truman, faced a decision of monumental weight. The alternative was a full-scale invasion of Japan, codenamed Operation Downfall. Based on the fanatical resistance seen on Iwo Jima and Okinawa, planners projected that an invasion could cost 500,000, or even 1 million, American lives, with Japanese military and civilian casualties in the millions. The choice was a terrible calculus of death. On one side, invasion, conventional, but prolonged and unimaginably bloody. On the other, a new weapon that might end the war quickly, but would unleash a form of destruction the world had never seen. In July, the Allies issued the Potsdam Declaration, demanding unconditional surrender and warning of prompt and utter destruction. The military government, hoping to preserve its power, rejected the ultimatum. For President Truman, the path seemed clear. Use the bomb to save American lives and end the war. On the morning of August 6, 1945, the skies above Hiroshima were clear. The city was a key military and industrial center, largely spared from the conventional firebombing that devastated other Japanese cities. At 8:15 a.m., the B-29 Enola Gay flew high overhead. From its bomb bay, Little Boy was released. It fell for 43 seconds, then it detonated in a blinding flash of white light. A fireball, hotter than the surface of the sun, vaporized everything at its center. A shockwave, hurricane-force winds, flattened nearly every building within a mile. The aftermath was a scene from a nightmare. A massive mushroom cloud rose over the ruined city. Smoke, dust, radioactive particles. Close to the blast, people were simply gone. Only their shadows remained on walls and pavement. Those farther away suffered horrific burns as black rain began to fall. They wandered through rubble in a daze. In a single moment, an estimated 70 to 80,000 were killed. Tens of thousands more would die later from injuries and radiation sickness. Despite the destruction, Japan's government was paralyzed. Hardliners refused to surrender. Some doubted a single bomb could do this. For 3 days the world held its breath. President Truman had hoped one bomb would be enough, but Tokyo's silence was deafening. The US had a second bomb ready, a plutonium device. The decision was made to use it, to show Hiroshima was not a one-time event. On August 9th, Bockscar aimed for Kokura, but clouds and smoke forced a diversion to Nagasaki. Nagasaki was a major port and home to a large Mitsubishi shipyard. At 11:02 a.m., Fat Man was dropped. Nagasaki's hilly terrain confined some of the destruction, but it was no less terrible. The Urakami Valley was obliterated. An estimated 40,000 died instantly. The world had seen atomic warfare twice in 3 days. The age of nuclear weapons had begun in fire and death. Adding to the pressure, on August 9th the Soviet Union declared war on Japan and launched a massive invasion of Manchuria. The hope of using the Soviets to negotiate peace was shattered. Japan was now isolated, facing destruction from the air and invasion from the ground. The choice was stark: unconditional surrender or complete and utter annihilation. The military leaders argued for a final suicidal battle. Others saw the futility. In an unprecedented move, Emperor Hirohito intervened. He summoned his Supreme War Council in an underground bomb shelter at the Imperial Palace. He listened to his generals.
Then he spoke. "I cannot bear to see my innocent people suffer any longer." With tears in his eyes, he declared Japan must accept the Potsdam Declaration.
His decision was final. The war was over. Even then, a faction attempted a coup on the night of August 14th. They tried to seize the Imperial Palace and tried to destroy the recording of the Emperor's speech. The coup failed.
At noon on August 15th, 1945, the people heard the Emperor's voice. He announced the nation's surrender.
For many, taught to fight to the death, the news was disbelief, sorrow, and for many, relief. On September 2nd, 1945, aboard the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay, representatives of the Japanese government formally signed the instrument of surrender. General Douglas MacArthur accepted the surrender on behalf of the Allied powers. The ceremony was brief and solemn. As the ink dried, the war officially ended. The bombings forced a conclusion, but opened the atomic age. Mushroom clouds over Hiroshima and Nagasaki would cast a long shadow over the 20th century.